Okay, let's go on to the second part of this first lecture. So we started talking about contribution to sales ratio, and really, I mean, it literally is that. Again, if we are given some figure 0.4, and we're told that, oh, if someone gives you this, let's say it's the contribution to sales ratio. I mean, this is just maths, really, isn't it? It's just ratios. Which means that if someone gave you either sales or someone gave you contribution, you could find revenue. Remember, this is this is just what this is. You know, if you know X, and you don't know Y, but you know that X over Y is equal to something, well, you can find Y, right? The trick here is that, well, you might not be given contribution directly, but you might be given it via the idea of the fixed costs. So at least you know it that at break-even, contribution is equal to fixed costs. So these are the little clues you're looking for. You're looking for little clues like that. Okay, let's go through. I think I have an example. And I sort of re-echo what I'm saying here. We know that a break-even contribution must be, I say must be as though I'm saying something new. It is equal to fixed costs. So we can work out revenue at break-even. And if we can work out revenue at break-even, we can work out we can do anything, whatever the selling price, we can go from there. So in this example from the previous video, contribution is 4 over 6. If you like, you have this sort of, oops, sorry, go back. You have this kind of relationship, don't you? Well, this is your selling price, this is your variable cost, and that's your contribution. So contribution over selling price is equal to 4 over 6, which is 0.67, rounding up to 2 decimal places. And if someone says you're required to work out what sales revenue is needed to generate a target profit of 320, well, like we said earlier on, if 320 is profit, and contribution, and this is fixed cost, and we know what your fixed costs are of, I think it was 1,000. This is fixed cost, and that's your contribution. Well, we know the contribution must be 1,320. So, if I know my contribution, and like I said earlier on, if I know that C over S is equals 0.67, now I know what contribution is, and that's 0.320. Which I found based on my profit plus my fixed costs. Well, I can find revenue at break-even. Revenue at this contribution, which is whatever, 1320 divided by 0.67. Okay, great. So that's what I do over here in the next video. 1320 divided by 0.67, that gives me 1,980. Great, so that's the contribution sales ratio that we talk about there. Popular objective question. Now, break-even charts. What I've done, a break-even chart kind of shows this relationship between I've actually created one using Excel. And just to really highlight everything, I've actually done the full thing. So you can create, just so you can see so you actually understand what's really taking place. In this scenario, this question we're talking, we know the break-even is about 250. We know that, so I can plot a graph of units starting at 0 and just do it in 50s if you like, and just see what would happen. I could extrapolate and go up to 400. I know the variable costs, of course. You can see here that if you look in my column here, I've literally done it. That's the variable cost £2 times the number of units. And so you can see that that's a nice correlation, increasing with the number of which you expect with the number of units. But my fixed cost, of course, is always 1,000. And I've plotted that. You can see that that's this graph here. That's this line here of, if you like, you can see it even picks up on this, telling you that that's what that is. Then I have my total costs, which is B2 plus C2, which is variable costs plus fixed costs. So I have my total costs all the way here. Here's my total costs, and that you can see that, touch that, you can see that highlights that whole area. And that's that graph. And then I now want to see what happens with the revenue. And so now I have revenue, which I plot. And of course, at 0, key issues here, variable is 0, fixed, of course, is 1,000, and revenue, of course, is 0. So if I click on my revenue, you can see that's that. And it's starting, of course, all the way at the bottom there. And then finally, which I think it's always a good thing to do, I think you should also work out the profit column. And profit is revenue minus total cost, isn't it? And so we can see here that we have this relationship here telling us what the profit is. Of course, at break even, which is 250, I'll just highlight that for you to see. We can see clearly that profit is equal to 0. And we can draw this graph. We can draw a graph of this and then see this relationship. And graphically, we can work out. You can see this point. This is the point where your total revenue meets your total costs, and that's at this break-even point of 250. So nothing brand new over there. Let me just go back to the slides. So on the y-axis, or the independent axis, the costs and revenue are plotted. We just write costs and revenue, and let me see if it'll let me sort of write on this. Probably not, I don't know. No, let me write on there. But on this axis, this is your costs and revenues, because we're plotting costs and revenues here, and here we're plotting the number of units. And then going back here. So that's that. Again, I've just shown you the graph I plotted. This is a kind of, this is just a made-up one that I picked up online. Exactly everything I've just said. Key issues here, that of course every time we are below, every time that revenue is below costs, you'll be making losses. And of course that makes sense until you get to break even, and everything above there and making profits. This margin of safety is this point that we're talking about, your budgeted units against your break even, and then you have that margin of safety. Your fixed cost line is everything that's going all the way down this way, and and so you can find that. And we did an example in class, didn't we, where we actually could work out what the actual variable costs were by really comparing. The fixed cost is what moves the variable cost up line up. So the total cost minus the fixed cost will give you a variable cost, won't it? Great. And so these are just the steps of doing it. Again, in an exam, will you be asked to draw one? With computer exams, people are saying probably not. I think it's good to still know how to draw one, so I will give you graph paper probably in class to actually draw one. I think it's good to know how to just draw one. Who knows? You will definitely have to analyze one, but to draw one, who knows? You should know how to anyway. But people are suspicious that it's probably quite difficult. And this is just going through the steps again, like I talked about. Now it's very difficult to draw contribution line or graph line. So what we tend to do is to draw something referred to as a profit volume line. You can see, we can tell what contribution is, but with that you would have to draw, you would have to draw a kind of variable cost line as well to compare with your revenue. After all, that is what contribution is. But what the examiner likes to do is to ask you to draw or to interpret this thing called the profit volume chart. And it's just a relationship between profit and volume. Now, the reason if you come back here to my chart here, the reason I kept this, or I drew this for you, was because I wanted you to see what the chart looked like. And if you go further down here, here is a profit volume graph. Nothing odd. All I've just done is drawn the graph of this thing here. I basically said at 0 units, well, you can see here straight away that your profits are negative. You see, quite negative. And so, as you continue to sell your units, well, you break even here at 0. You make no profit, but you make 200. You sell 250 units, and from then on, your profits start to increase. So you can see here that a profit volume graph is something that you can interpret. We're looking at profit from this side, which is technically total revenue minus total costs, and we're looking at units. And so we can see the relationship between profit and volume, which gives you an idea. Remember, we're talking about a single product for now. So those are the big points, the key points. I recommend you can draw always in any exam or whatever it is, or if you're asked to do this, just put the table together, literally, and make up a few units around your break even and after your break even to be able to plot and see what your chart would look like when you're there. Okay. Again, this is just another picture that I picked up again. So this is, of course, areas of losses, areas of profits. Yes, absolutely. And this profit graph is also referred to as the contribution volume graph. Yes, I've highlighted this fact that we're really looking at the movement in profit when there's a change in the number of units. Okay, great stuff. What we'll do is we'll move on to now start looking at multi-products and plotting these charts for them. Nothing dissimilar, but I'm just looking at what happens when we're selling more than one product. Okay, great stuff. See you in the next video.